Good day, everyone. How are you today? I hope you are having a great day so far, and I hope you still have the motivation to learn, even though we are in an online setup today. So yeah, happy Thursday, and of course, let's start our day with a prayer. So let me lead the prayer na po. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Yes, Lord. Maraming salamat po for this very special day. And I hope gabayan and protektahan niyo lang po kami throughout this lesson. Make our internet stable enough para makapag-participate and maging smooth po yung lesson. And we surrendered everything to you po. In Jesus' name, amen. Name the Father, the Son, who is Spirit. Okay. So, um, konting recap lang. Just a little recap. Just a little reminder. Okay, kasi it's been a while since our last online class. So, this is a simple class na again. You already know this. Turn your camera on so that I can see your beautiful faces. Can I see your beautiful faces? All right, very good. Mr. Elon Musk, can you turn your camera on? Okay, very good. Okay, and then mute your mic when you are not speaking for the smoothness of our session. And be respectful and also be active in the chat and comments. Is that clear? Clear. Okay. So here is our objectives for today's session. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify some key concepts in global governance through a word activity, describe the structure and the purpose of United Nations, and reflect on global governance corporation by imagining yourself in a leadership role. Okay po. I hope you will be able to achieve these objectives for today. Okay. Ready? Okay, so our first step in achieving these objectives is a game. Okay, so the game is very simple. The title explains itself. Arrange the jumbled letters. So I will flash a word with a jumbled letters in it, and then we will try to decode it within 10 seconds. And then I will you're going to participate through our chat box. So we're going to monitor that, who got it first, and the people who will got the word first will have a recitation point. Is that clear? Can you give me a thumbs up or heart emoticon? My instructions are clear. Clear, very good. Okay. So for our word number one, I you have 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. So I saw it in our chat box, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. You got the word first. So the word is actually, a lot of you already know it. Our word is peacekeeping. Okay, very good. Very good, everyone. My one recitation point for Mr. Zuckerberg. For our next word, another 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Miss Makara Egg got it first, and a lot of you got it as well. Okay. So, obviously, the word is unite. So, are we united in this class? Okay. So, your class president, Mr. Trump, um, click the laughing emoticon. All right. So, next word, another 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, a lot of you got it correctly, but the first one who got it is Mr. Santos. Okay, so the word is, obviously, all of you already know it, significant. Okay, let's go with our fourth word for today. Okay, 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, and our fourth word is obviously nations. And who got it first? Okay, Mr. Gonzalez got it first. Very good. And one recitation point for you. Mr. President, kindly list all the words, list all the names na nakakuha ng tamang sagot. Okay. And our fifth word for today is 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, Mr. Elon Musk got it first. So our last word for today is, a lot of you already know it, through our chat box. Last word for today is conference. Okay, good job everyone. So now that our game had already ended, let's try to analyze the activity that we just did. So I hope you enjoyed the game. So, okay. So let's analyze the relevance of our activity today by answering this question. Again, what team or system do you think connect all of these words? Sige nga po, just kindly answer one to two sentences in our chat box. I'll just read it. Okay? Sige po. Give you 1 minute to formulate your answer. Okay, Mr. James Reed says that I think these words are connected by the idea of how countries work together globally, especially through organizations like United Nations. Okay, very nice input, Mr. James Reed. Okay, Mr. Bill Gates says that it's all about international cooperation, how different nations try to maintain peace and solve global problems without one world leader. Okay, that's a really good one. So, who else? Okay, let me read one more comment. Okay, Mr. Biden answered, they're connected through diplomacy and efforts to keep peace between countries, especially after wars. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. And I really like your answers because somehow your answers foreshadows our topic for today. Because our topic for today is, give me a drum roll, please. Hi. The title of our lesson for today is Contemporary Global Governance. Okay. So first, let's define contemporary global governance. So here's the very simple and usual definition. I hope you can see it on the slide. Can everyone see it on the slide? Can you thumbs up, please? You can see it on the slide. Okay, very good. So when we say contemporary global governance, it's basically how the world tries to solve big problems like climate change, pandemics, through a mix of different players, including countries, international organizations, nonprofits, corporations, and even big corporations. They are all trying, sometimes succeeding, they're sometimes succeeding, they're sometimes failing, to manage global issues together. They understand it? And they understand it. But for example, take climate change, for example. It's not like CO2 politely stops at the country's border, correct? So CO2 problems or our problem with carbon dioxide. It's actually a global problem. It's a global mess. So we got things like Paris Agreement, where countries try to reduce emissions, carbon emissions together. And there's also COVID-19, very recent, correct? There's a remember. No one could no one could handle this kinds of problem as a country. So governance, like, or I mean globalization, I mean global corporations like World Health Organization, what else? Other organizations, companies, they coordinate to share data about vaccines, strategies, etc. So, basically, that is the function of global governance um to solve world class or world level problem. So basically, um global governance is very important to solve these issues because they are borderless. Okay. Okay po? Okay. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay. But in our next slide, it is stated here that there's no world government, technically. There's no world government, but there is governance. How did that happen? It's kind of uh, paradoxical if you think. But okay, let's dive into this paradox. So when I say there's no world government, but somehow global governance still exists. As you can see on the slide, yeah, technically there's no single authority or big world leader who controls global affairs. There's no such thing as president of the earth. That's one of my childhood things. President of the world. But there's no such thing as a title, correct? But here's the interesting part. Countries still manage to cooperate voluntarily. Uh, they still manage following shared rules and organizations to tackle global issues, correct po? It's like global potluck dinner. In potluck dinner, diba? Everyone contributes, but no one is really in charge of the menu. And okay, yeah. For instance, as Mr. Bill Gates ba kanina says that there's United Nations. United Nations isn't a world government, but it's an organization where countries voluntarily agree to collaborate to maintain peace. Okay, very good. So so basically, United Nations address human rights, solving global problems, etc. And ano ba ba? There are other world corporations like World Trade Organizations where country agrees on international trade rules. Okay. Um, and then there's also Paris Agreement on climate change. I think I've already mentioned that earlier. Where countries came together to uh, commit on reducing carbon emissions. And then, so yeah, the point is, even though there's no global authority, even though there's no such thing as the world's president or president of the earth who enforce it, um, global governance is actually about cooperation and shared rules with mutual interests, of course. So, um, if you follow this rule, um, your country will also benefit, not just a specific country, not just USA, but also Philippines. That's why that's why countries are cooperating as well, correct? So okay. With that in mind, let's move on to the next slide now. On how do we get here? How do we have a global governance that we have today? So we are going to tackle a little bit of a history. Okay, let's take a step back and look how we got here. Because Okay, as you can see on the screen, how did we go from empires and constant wars to this modern idea of global governance? As you can see on the slide, in the pre-modern world was dominated by empires like Spanish, Ottoman, Ming dynasties, you name it. There are a lot of countries before the roots, and that expanded through conquest, trade, colonization. Philippines had a really bad experience when it comes about that. Okay, so because before there were no international laws, there were no United Nations, and there were no cooperative institutions like we have today. There's no ICC, so maybe Duterte would love. Just kidding. Okay, it's all about who had the most powers, who had the most armies, and who had the most territory. So this led to deeply unequal birth. So imperial powers dictated the terms of global interactions, while weaker regions were often exploited or colonized. This imbalance led this imbalance laid Bisaya na. This imbalance laid the foundation for what we now refer as the divide between the global north and the global south. So that's why if you notice, up until now, somehow, okay, maybe onti na lang, but somehow there's still a little bit of divisions when it comes to northern countries and southern countries. But gradually today, um starting to get more united. But we'll get there later. Okay, with that in mind, let's move on to the slide where we'll talk about a major turning point. In 1648, which completely changed the roots of this very ugly situation, correct? Okay. So one of the turning point is the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. So this changed the game. So this Peace of Westphalia is really a game changer. If you think of it, this was a peace agreement that ended 30-year war in Europe, a conflict that was basically one part religion, one part politics, and several parts is just chaos. So what's important for us is that this treaty didn't just end a war, but it also gave a modern birth, or a modern birth, a modern, a modern nation state system. So this was the moment when the idea of state sovereignty really took hold. So basically, it said, hey, every state should get to govern itself without other states burning in. So um, it somehow became a conversation starter. So because of this, other countries had the idea that they supposed to respect each other's border and not interfere each other's internal affair. But okay, let's be clear. Um, it didn't change just like that. So it didn't magically solve the world's problem. Wars still happened. As you know, it's only just 1648. Wars still happened. So I think you're already familiar with the wars that I am talking about. Inequality still existed, but Westphalia was a starting point. As I said earlier, it became a conversation starter, or somehow it planted a seed subtly for how countries would relate to each other in a more constructed, rule rule based way. Um, okay. So, okay, on the next slide, we're going to begin on talking about the events that came after this, after 1648. Actually, we're taking a big time dip. Okay, we're talking about some 1800s and 1900s event. Okay, so next slide. Next slide. Yun. Okay, so fast forward few centuries after Westphalia. So Westphalia. Okay, spoiler alert, the world didn't magically become a peaceful utopia. As I've said earlier. In fact, we end up with two world wars in the 20th century. These weren't just European conflicts. Now they were truly global disasters. So World War One, World War Two, are you familiar in your history classes? Okay. So guess how many died in this war? So tens of millions died, right? Actually, not just World War One, World War Two, also the Cold War, right? So cities were leveled, and there's a need for a better system, and a system better that they had at that time. After World War One, some people tried to solve it. The world gave it a shot with the League of Nations in 1920. So it was proposed by President Woodrow Wilson. So the purpose of that, the purpose of that is to um, prevent future wars like World War One through diplomacy. But ironically, the US never actually joined. And then without real powers like US and the USSR, um, the League of Nations struggled. It lacked the enforcement of power. So aggressors like Nazi Germany and other big countries, when they broke the rules, the league couldn't do much because they don't have that power to implicate a sense of authority. And then World War II came, more devastating, more global, and this time the world knew it. It had to get serious. So in 1945, there are 50 representatives of countries gathered in San Francisco, San Francisco, and drafted the United Nations Charter. So the UN officially came into existence in October 24, 1945, as we now celebrate as the United Nations Day. So some key figures behind that, kindly take note of this one. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Premier Minister, Soviet Prime Minister Joseph Stalin. So these world leaders aren't exactly best friends, but they understood that corporation was essential for the survival of the humanity. Because if wars and wars after wars continue to happen, so it's not only their country who are in danger, but the whole world. So that's why we have the United Nations. Sorry, today. Okay. So this time, in United Nations, the system had finally a structure, and it finally had an authority because a lot of big countries joined. There's a Security Council with real decision-making power. Because to conduct General Assembly or conferences, again, word, in our game earlier. I feel it lang. For our global, conferences for a global dialogue. And then agencies like WHO, UNESCO, UNICEF. So you are all familiar with that, I'm sure. So today, United Nations had already 193 member states, practically every recognized country in the world. I think there are only two countries that are not member of the United Nations. Okay, of course, United Nations it's not the only organization out there, but we are discussing this one because it is the most relevant, I think, when we say global governance. But aside from United Nations, we got WTO, IMF, ano ba? ICC. Okay, so but for now, we're going to keep our focus on United Nations because it plays central role in how global governance work today. And that's why we are going to make some digging about United Nations for the rest of the discussion. Okay. So United Nations as the core of global governance. So, all right. So we've been tossing some name around a lot, and now it's time to properly meet United Nations. So the United Nations is what we call an intergovernmental organization, which basically means it's made up of countries who agree to work together on big global issues. And once again, it was officially born on 1945. So right after World War II. So when the world was like, okay, we seriously need a system to prevent this kind of chaos from happening again. So today, uh, yeah, United Nations is everything when we say global governance. So actually, it also includes in that 193 only 191 are the regular members, but two of those and two of that two countries in that 193, which are Palestine and Vatican, are just observers. They are not full members, but they are still protected by UN. They still um attend discussions and everything. Um, but yeah, they are not fully members. So now let's talk about what does the United Nations actually do? So its main mission is pretty bold. So it's actually peace, the relationship between countries, and team up on global challenges. So I said it's bold because it's pretty ambitious, right? It's hard to keep, it's hard to make relationship with other countries. Um, and it's hard to solve global challenges. But again, with cooperation with everyone, with unity, so we can make a progress. And as you can see, if we compare it to our situations in the past, today is still much better. Correct? Correct. Okay. Okay po. So, ano ba? Other things that UNs do is, yeah, global try to solve global challenges like again climate change, humanitarian aid, human rights, and then yeah, the more recent one is global pandemic. So with United Nations, countries can share information with each other. Countries can share discoveries of what they can do, or they can share ideas, solution. It's not about one country is calling the shot. It's about creating a space where the world can ideally talk. It they can talk things instead of fighting things out like before. So yeah, uh, United Nations is far from perfect, but it's the closest thing we have to achieve global family meeting. Um, if that family included 193 very opinionated relatives. Uh, okay. So now, let's break down the big picture into smaller ones. So, okay, specifically, the UN have four main purposes, which are, I think of this as UN spatial mission statement. CBSU, diba? We have our mission and vision. So UN as well, they also have a mission and vision. So their first main purpose is keeping peace. So the world is a big place if you think of it. It's big. Compared to a small room, the world is big. So let's face it. The bigger, the harder to keep it organized and to keep it peaceful. So the world is big, that's why it can get pretty chaotic. So one example of the UN trying to keep the peace was with the involvement with Philippines, West Philippine Sea and West Philippine Sea dispute. Correct po? So we have a problem with that in China. While the UN itself doesn't have military, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, a UN affiliated body, ruled on 2016 case brought by the Philippines against China over territorial claims. So the ruling supported the Philippines' rights to its exclusive economic zone through the challenge now. Though the challenge now is getting all parties to respect the decision, and then second is developing the friendly relations among nations. So the UN's goal is to bring the countries together and avoid conflict. So yeah, even though within that there's still some issue today, correct? So China is not actually respecting the decision of the ICJ and the UN. So yeah, and the UN couldn't just punish the China, so that's a huge country. So still the main goal of UN is peace. So that's why even though we won and the China is not respecting it, we couldn't do much. So United Nations is far from perfect pa talaga. And it happens not because the system of UN is ugly. It happens because um large countries are actually not cooperative. Correct? Okay. Hmm. Okay, and then second is to develop friendly relations nga. And third is what? Improve the lives of the people globally. So this is just not about avoiding war. So I've already tackled that with example, sorry. Okay, we're on number 3, right? Improve the lives of people globally. So for example, Global Fund supported the UN has helped to reduce the diseases like malaria and HIV in countries like Africa. So as we know, diba, Africa is a really poor country. And finally, their fourth role is to harmonize the international actions to solve problems. So, for example, here is the Paris Agreement, which in UN helped facilitate in 2015, brought countries together to commit cutting emissions and addressing global warmings. Even though not every country had perfectly followed the agreement, marks that agreement marks a global effort to tackle issue that affects everyone. So, okay. So next slide. So now let's talk about the 6 main organs of United Nations. So as shown in this slide, United Nations have 6 main organs. Each one kind of like an essential organ of the body. So in our body, we have heart, we have liver, we have etc. But in UN, they have this. So different roles, but all working together to keep global governance alive and mostly functioning. Let's start with General Assembly. So this is a big forum where all 193 members are represented equally. So one country is equal to one vote. It's where the nations come to talk things out, pass resolutions, and they also so basically this General Assembly or General Conference shape the global narrative, everything from human rights to climate change to the solution to poverty and so on. Next is the Security Council, which okay, the Security Council is responsible for maintaining the peace and security. So, Security Council, which has the job of maintaining international peace and security, this is the only UN organ that can make decisions that are legally binding, like sanctions or authorizing the use of force and so on. And then the next one is Trusteeship Council. So it was originally created to oversee territories that hadn't yet gained independence, especially in the wake of colonialism. The con- uh, the ta- trustee, the trusteeship council's work helped many territories to become a sovereign state. So it's basically retired now because almost 193 countries have their own government. So it's basically complete its mission already. But I still mention this because the legacy of this one still matters. Okay. And the fourth one is the Economic and Social Council, or we can call it as well na ESOC, ECOSOC. So ECOSOC basically coordinates economic, social, and developmental work. So they think of poverty reduction, public health, education, environmental protection. It also coordinates effort across agencies like WHO and UNESCO. And it's the one behind big initiatives like sustainable developmental goals. And the fifth one is the International Court of Justice. So here is where the discussion on West Philippine Sea happened. And then last one is Secretariat. So Secretariat is an administrative and support organ headed by Secretary General. So the current Secretary General is, I think, Antonio Gutierrez, and it handles everything from research and logistics, implementations of General Assembly, Security Council decisions, and basically, if UN were a school, so the Secretariat is that staff that keeping um that keeps the place run, or it's the one that keeping the place from falling apart. Okay po. So yeah. So that's the picture. The six main organs that each six main organs in United Nations. So each one plays a vital role, or in the case of Trusteeship Council, play a vital role from the so-called global governance that somehow UN is embodying, if that's even a word. Okay. So now, let's talk about voting and sovereignty in the UN a little deeper. Just a little. So because here things get both idealistic and somehow complicated, because as you can see on the slide, in the General Assembly, and the slide earlier, in the General Assembly, all 193 members of the state get one vote, whether you're a global superpower like Russia or like United States, or you are a small island like the Philippines. You technically have the same voting power. So one country, one vote. That's the whole idea of this forum, right? There is an equality um in decision makings. But but it's a big but this balance doesn't extend to every part of UN, because when we move over to Security Council, there is a shift of some things. This is where the so-called P5 comes in. So it is called P5 because they are the five permanent members: the United States, the United Kingdom, France, China, and Russia. So these five not only hold permanent seat, but they also each have veto power. So when we say veto power, it means it means any one of them that can block a resolution, even if the majority of the countries agree on this certain resolution. When one country of that P5 says no, the whole thing stops. It's like having five players in a 190 player game who each have a pause button, because they cannot hit whenever don't they can hit whenever they don't like what's happening. So um and that's why it's really hard to solve the issue when it comes um to our conflict with China, because they're big part of that P5 actually. So while the United Nations promotes the idea of equal sovereignty and collective action, the structure still reflect the power dynamics rooted in post World War II in geopolitics, if you think of it. Now I'm oversimplifying things here because there's a bit of time constraint. You still have a reflection to do later. That's why I'm condensing what's actually much deeper. So I'm encouraging you to dig deeper yourself. So for you the learners, this is your cue to not stop here. Dig deeper. Do your own research. I ask why these structures persist and how they might evolve, and maybe you can share those if we have face-to-face classes. Okay. And then, okay. So now, before we wrap things up for you, um, we've talked about how the world tries to manage itself, who gets to say, and who holds the power. But now I want to get your thoughts as well. So let's imagine for a second that here is your activity. Let's imagine for a second that you had a seat at the table, or better yet, you are the president of the world. And yes, that is a made up job. There's no such thing as the world president. But imagine you are the world president. What global rule would you create first and why? So take a moment to reflect, think big, think bold, don't be scared, can be honest. And most importantly, think like a global citizen. Think for the whole world, not just the Philippines. Imagine you are the global. So I will give you 10 minutes to answer this. I already uploaded the folder in our Google Classroom. So write at least 1 to 2 comprehensive paragraphs of your answer. Okay? Timer starts now. And please just open your camera while you are answering. 10 minutes, and then I will close the submission to the folder in our Google Classroom, Global Classroom, Google Classroom. 10 minutes starts now. All right, thank you. I see that everyone was able to answer. Okay, I will read that later. Thank you so much. Um, for your cooperation, like the 193 countries. Diba? So now, okay, before we end the day, let's have a 5-item quiz. So, okay, so don't worry, this quiz is not recorded. But I will give you, we still have 10 minutes, so I'll give you 5 minutes to answer this quiz. And then after 5 minutes, you can comment your scores later. So, I want you to be honest because this is not recorded, but the purpose of this quiz is for me to see how well did our lesson went today. So it went good, it went bad, did you understand my discussion or not? So just be honest on what your scores will be. Is that okay? Okay. Okay, 5 minutes starts now. Okay, kindly give me a thumbs up reaction if you are still with me. Mr. Trump, very good. Mr. Musk, very good. Mr. Zuckerberg, okay. Let's keep on answering. Okay, time's up. You may now comment your scores. Okay, a lot of you got perfect scores. Okay, some got 2. That's okay. That's on me, maybe. Okay. Okay. Don't worry if your scores is 5 or 2. I will send you more materials later that you can review. But yeah, just comment your score and I can use this as a reference. Okay. Okay, that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much. Go hydrate yourself, stretch, maybe reflect on how complicated it is to manage a planet. Okay, see you next time. So everyone had already submitted our reflection earlier, correct? Okay, so looks like everyone. So I don't need to reopen the submission. Okay, very good. So that's a wrap. See you next time.